Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to News Dose. So, it's been a bit of an odd week with this entire back and forth between Sony and Microsoft. As we talked about earlier this week, Sony's not necessarily thrilled with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, and now they're whining about it to regulators. This whole thing is not a good look for Sony, and while Microsoft, they know that. In fact, they actually responded by giving some new details to the Brazilian regulator, and basically, they're calling Sony out here for what comes off as incredibly hypocritical. So we're going to dive into that a little later on today, as well as Nintendo's quarterly report where the Switch had some ups and downs, as is pretty much the entire game industry. But the Switch did surpass a new milestone, and some of their software has already broken some new records. So yes, we do have a lot to go over today. First though, before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button below and go ahead and join the notification gang. That way, as soon as I drop a new video, which is every weekday, you'll get notified right away. You're not going to want to miss out on all of that. To get started today, though, the Pokemon Company just had a Pokemon Presents event where we got a slew of updates for various games. This includes Pokemon Unite, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Masters EX, and even Pokemon Cafe. You know, all of the big spin-offs that makes them like a gazillion bucks every single year. Unfortunately, though, nothing on Detective Pikachu 2. We're still patiently waiting for that one, or any type of update on Legends Arceus and any type of expansion there. But obviously, the big news today that everybody was tuning in for was for Scarlet and Violet, and that's exactly what we're going to focus on today. A lot of new details alongside a new gameplay trailer were unveiled here, and I think for most Pokemon fans, not everybody obviously, but for most Pokemon fans, you'll probably be pretty happy with what they showed. It really seems like a good mix of new and old. As Game Freak described today, Scarlet and Violet is an evolution on the franchise while giving fans everything that they've always cherished about past Pokemon games. That way just everybody can kind of be happy, because I know for myself, I've always loved that classic formula, so I don't want them to just completely change, so I really like what they're doing here. Now, how they're actually doing this, though, is that they're introducing that big open world that fans have pretty much dreamed about since Red, Blue, and Yellow, and we are finally getting that. But it also has that classic formula of going to different gyms and getting all 8 badges. That way, you can be the best there ever was. Now, it does work differently in this game, though, as there's no set path on which gym you should battle first. But that is one of the 3 stories within Scarlet and Violet. You're also a student, so that, of course, will also play a big part in the story. But I think the biggest focus that they wanted to get across today is that they are taking a step forward with its open world, and they are completely diving into this. That means 4-player co-op, which is actually really cool to see in a Pokemon game. There's also raid battles and new traversal options, as you will get the main legendary Pokemon pretty much right at the beginning of the game. That way you can ride them around like motorcycles. Yeah, I don't think that this was necessarily overly surprising, because they obviously look like bikes the first time they showed them. But however, they're not just your regular bikes, because, you know, these are Pokemon, and that means they can also glide around Zelda Breath of the Wild style. So that's actually pretty cool how they're handling the traversal in this game. The one other thing that they revealed, though, is the new evolution gimmick that they keep reworking with every entry since X and Y. First, we had Mega Evolutions, which I thought was actually pretty cool. You know, that's like Dragon Ball Z's type of stuff. Then there was the Z moves, you know, those ultra powerful moves that can be very game-changing. Sword and Shield also had the big Pokemon, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. And now, for whatever reason, we have Crystal Pokemon that can change your typing. This is actually probably the only part that I didn't like about the reveal today, as it just seems a little strange to me. Really, I don't know what you're thinking with this type of stuff. It's a little absurd, in my opinion. I mean, if Game Freak insists on these gimmicks, though, just go back to the Mega Evolutions. I was more than happy just making my Pokemon go Super Saiyan, but hey, it is what it is. I do think that they got it right the first time, but whatever. Other than that, though, I mean, I think Scarlet and Violet looks really good. I'm pretty much happy with everything that I saw, and I'm really excited to play this one later this year when it launches on November 18th. For you Pokemon fans out there, though, let me know what you all thought about today's reveal. Are you happy with what you're seeing so far on Scarlet and Violet? Moving on though, since our first topic was a little longer than expected, let's go and dive right into our featured topic of the day, and that's Microsoft's response to Sony's whining about the Activision Blizzard acquisition. We did talk about this back on Monday, and if you missed that video, go and make sure to go check that out. But basically, to put it short, Sony's kind of complaining to a Brazilian regulator and trying to make it appear that they're this poor, innocent company that just can't compete with the likes of Call of Duty and Xbox Game Pass if this acquisition goes through. They claim that this acquisition could influence console choice, and yeah, no duh, that's kind of the point. Any acquisition is clearly to gain influence. It's certainly not the opposite, as I guess Sony's trying to indicate here, and that's why this entire statement by Sony is just complete nonsense. I mean, Sony as a company has acquired several studios in just the last couple years. They've also locked down major third-party exclusives such as Final Fantasy, and now they have the audacity to point the finger and act like they've just been playing the nice guy this entire time, and none of that was to influence console choice. Come on, Sony. Just get out of here with all that type of nonsense. And yes, Microsoft is calling them out on exactly that. This was discovered by a user over on Resetera by the name of Itis. Big shout out to that person. And while looking through some of the Microsoft statement to the regulator in regards to this acquisition, in paragraph 285, they say this: Sony and Nintendo have strong and differentiated offerings, including their own exclusive titles. For example, IDC has identified the key Sony exclusive titles in 2018 include God of War and Marvel Spider-Man, in addition to other prominent titles such as Last of Us and Uncharted. These titles partly reflect Sony's vertical integration. For example, Sony's film studio owns the rights to Spider-Man, but also, and here's the key part, its broader strategy of obtaining rights that make third-party games exclusive to its console. That right there was the big part of this statement, and apparently they even specifically mentioned Final Fantasy in paragraph 205. So there you have it. Microsoft, they're not playing games here. They're letting these regulators know exactly what's happening. They're letting them know not only does PlayStation have big-time first-party games that are exclusive to their platform, but also they lock down major third-party exclusives with paid contracts. Those moves, again, are to influence console choice, regardless of what Sony wants these regulators to believe. And I know that there's always going to be those select few people that'll come out in Sony's defense and say, oh, well, Microsoft, they lock down games too. And okay, that is actually true, but that's not the point. Microsoft isn't the one whining to regulators about it. Sony, meanwhile, though, they're complaining with just weird arguments, all while leaving out the fact that they do the exact same thing that quote-unquote influence console choice. It just comes off as hypocritical, and I think that that's why fans have kind of latched onto this story. Regulators might not immediately recognize the hypocrisy, but us as fans, people that actually follows the game industry, we know what's really happening here. Nonetheless, though, as I said the other day, I don't think that any of this will actually impact the acquisition negatively, as pretty much every other publisher said that they're fine with it. And Microsoft's here already explaining to regulators what's really happening. If Sony has their way, though, it does look like they are seeking to stop this acquisition. Let's go back and talk about Nintendo again, though, as they just posted their fiscal year Q1 report, and it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Technically, they did just post some down results, which might skew how some people look at it, though this was to be expected, as we've talked about with both Xbox and PlayStation as well. The game industry is just slowing down this year, but the Switch did have a solid overall quarter. It did sell 3.43 million units, which is down year over year, where they did sell 4.45 million last year. Nintendo indicates that this is because of the semiconductor shortage, which, that's a very real reason, but they, however, are expecting an increase throughout the year and remain very confident in 21 million units sold for the entire fiscal year. A lot of that, of course, will depend on supply, and we'll see how all that turns out. But the big news here is that the Switch did surpass a new milestone as it eclipses 110 million units sold. It is now officially at 111.08 million units sold worldwide, which is absolutely crazy when you consider Nintendo's last console. I mean, you know that tablet that kind of confused consumers by the name of the Wii U? You know that thing? Yeah, that was an abysmal failure that only sold 13 million units. And here we are just one generation later, and Nintendo is now the market leader. And it's actually about ready to become the third best-selling console in history. By the end of this year, the Switch will more than likely, almost definitely actually, surpass both the PlayStation 4 and the Game Boy, which is at 118 million units sold, to become the third best-selling console ever made, sitting only behind the Nintendo DS and the PlayStation 2. Now that there, though, will be the real challenge, as they are sitting above 150 million units sold apiece. As far as software, though, Nintendo was down here as well by 8.6%, but they did confirm 2 new million sellers from their first-party catalog. Switch Sports was a big hit at 4.84 million units sold, and then Mario Strikers Battle League, despite it having, not very much content, it did have a good launch as well. Then we do have some more really good news for Kirby and the Forgotten Land, as it did break a new record in the Kirby franchise, as it's easily outsold all past Kirby games in the same time frame. I think that it's rather easy to say that transition to a 3D platform was a big win for Nintendo, and really just the future for games like this are looking pretty positive. I think they should also do something like this with Donkey Kong. We haven't seen a 3D Donkey Kong since Donkey Kong 64. Let's get that to happen as well. If anything, though, that Switch effect continues to be a very, very real thing. Last but not least, though, you can take a look here at the best-selling Nintendo games, and as we all know, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is absolutely insane. It is crazy what this game is doing, as it is now nearing 50 million units sold, which is just unheard of for first-party games. Like I said, though, the Nintendo Switch and all the success that it's had is just so incredible. I think the story of the Switch and why it's so captivating, or at least to me, is that it does show you the highs and lows of the game industry. It's just crazy to think that all this success is coming off the Wii U, and it does show you that with each generation, it can be completely different. I mean, we saw it with the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3, and then back to the PlayStation 4, and really the same thing seems to be happening with the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, and now with the Xbox Series. It's just a whole new game every single generation. Never become stagnant, never settle, and also never give up. I think that's some of the takeaways that you can take from how these generations work from generation to generation. That fluctuation is, it's a very real thing. Either way, though, big congrats to Nintendo on all their success with the Switch. It truly is just an absolutely brilliant console. Now, we do have a little more time for one last topic today, and one game that's drawn a lot of excitement, especially over on Xbox, is Stalker 2. Stalker 2 is set to release sometime next year for the PC and Xbox Series, which is the franchise's first appearance on console. It looks amazing, though, visually. I'd say that it even looks quite stunning, and you can really feel the atmosphere. And hopefully it'll turn out to be as good as it looks, because if it does, this could end up being a very special game when it releases. However, if you were hoping to play the first games before the newest installment releases next year, a new leak is going around that shows the first game running on console. There is already leaked footage online, though as usual, I'm not going to show any of that on my channel. It is out there, though, and easily found. So this right now does appear to be real if all this turns out to be true. According to the leaker, though, they're actually planning to release the entire trilogy, which would actually be a great decision. These games have never appeared on console before, and this could be a great introduction ahead of Stalker 2, a very much anticipated release. I mean, these are older games and everything, and their visuals are a little dated, but they've always excelled with their atmosphere, and I think that can still be displayed even all these years later. Let me know, though, on whether or not you're excited for Stalker 2, and if you are, would you be interested in playing the original trilogy ahead of its official release next year in 2023? Hopefully, early 2023. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, if Microsoft completes the Activision Blizzard acquisition, do you think they will make new Call of Duty games exclusive to Xbox? And as you can see here, most of you all believe this will not be the case, with 60% of you saying no, while 35% of you said yes. Now, that's actually still a good portion of you all out there that still believes that, yes, Call of Duty will be a console exclusive, which more or less means that you're not entirely trusting of what Microsoft has stated on numerous occasions. Microsoft, of course, has suggested that Call of Duty will remain multi-platform, but I know some fans out there have kind of looked at those statements with some disbelief and believes that Microsoft are just trying to play word games or are intentionally being vague. I guess that just kind of shows you that the game community doesn't entirely take everything they say at face value. And okay, fair enough. I, however, do agree with the majority of you here. I think that yes, you can kind of look at some of their statements and make a debate that maybe they're being vague, but the way I look at this personally is that Microsoft publicly made a statement that was intended for regulators. This wasn't just for gamers, but it was actually for regulators, and in that statement, they did suggest that Call of Duty will be multi-platform. Now, that statement didn't mention any other franchise by name, but because this was directed at regulators very specifically, which they'll likely have to keep a good relationship even after the acquisition, if they mislead them, that's not a good look for Microsoft. Any acquisition after Activision Blizzard, I think, would draw even more scrutiny if they mislead regulators. So that's how I kind of look at what's happening here. I believe that this acquisition is actually more for Xbox Game Pass, as it could grow exponentially with the inclusion of Call of Duty, Diablo, Crash Bandicoot, and so on and so forth. Despite any type of exclusivity, the inclusion of Xbox Game Pass cannot be understated, and I think that that's their goal here with an acquisition like this. I guess, though, we'll just have to kind of continue to play the waiting game, as there still are plenty of you all out there that is very committed to that belief of exclusivity. I guess if anything, though, if I am wrong here, you all can come back and just tell me all about it, rub it in my face, and just how wrong I was. I'll be more than okay to come out here and take the L as you will. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.